Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of The Herald's Horn. I'm going to cut right to the chase. Y'all know what we're talking about this week. We discussed the EDH bans pretty roundly. We have a couple other things to talk about too. There's been some Marvel leaks. Ooh, exciting. Duskborn is here. What does Dan actually think? Dan wasn't on the episode last episode when we got to talk about it a lot. So what does Dan think about Duskborn? How are we feeling about it now that it's released? What do we think about these leaks? After the break, I'm interviewing the one and only Mike Linneman. It rhymes with cinnamon. About magic art and a ton of other related topics, running those art shows at Magic Cons, how new direction at Wizards of the Coast has affected the art market, and lots more. It's a great interview. I know you'll love it. Let's get into it. Hello, it's time for the Herald's Horn. My name is Cal Jones, and today I am joined by the wonderful Emma. She's riding high. The Panthers have gotten their first win in something like 20 weeks of football. Say hello, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
I don't think it's actually been that long since the Panthers.
I mean, it feels that long. It feels like an eternity.
If we count the offseason, it's definitely been that long.
Yes.
And we are also joined on the line today by someone who could not care any less about the prospects of the Carolina Panthers, and that is one Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, everyone. I would like to rebut that because I feel like there's infinite possibilities for growth in the human spirit, and I think I could care less.
You think it would be possible to find less space in your heart to care for the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, I just got to keep thinking about the ban list.
I mean, Dan, a lot of fans just don't care about the Carolina Panthers as well, and they actively decide to follow the team.
I'm going to have to step up my game, but I'm just saying I believe it's possible.
All right, let's run the theme song. And we are back. It is time, as always, to jump directly into the news. And before we address the real elephant in the room, the real big topic, I have to issue an addendum to the last episode, a factual correction, perhaps our first ever on the air. The Netflix Magic the Gathering show is still happening. Right around the time we were recording the episode, our last episode, some news broke that in an interview, one of the actors that was supposed to be involved with the project was like, hey, it's over. We're not doing it anymore. It turns out they're still doing it. I guess Netflix heard that news cycle go around and they announced that the show is still happening under either its third or fourth showrunner and executive producer. This time it's Terry Matalas of Star Trek Picard and 12 Monkeys fame. So cool. I hope the show is good. I don't think it will be. Anyone else?
It's a cartoon now, right? And it was going to be live action. Is that correct? I think that makes for much better prospects for it. But I still have infinitely low possibilities for actually watching it.
I also have low expectations, which means I will probably be pleasantly surprised when this actually comes out.
I was about to say,
that'd be great.
The last time I had really low expectations for a show, we got the One Piece live action, and that's pretty good. So,
Emmy frontrunner, I heard.
Really?
No, I just made that up. Cal was so funny. That was fantastic.
Speaking of front running for Emmys, let's talk about the EDH ban. Dan, I'm sure you'll give us a performance relevant to the Emmys. What do you think about this? No. Okay, so I'm going to set the table here, though, for real. Yesterday, at the time of recording, Monday morning, noon, we got our normal Commander quarterly update. You know, the stuff that pretty much comes out with most every standard set, where the rules committee tells us how they think Commander is going, what they think about the trajectory of the format, all that kind of fun stuff. And usually there's no changes, maybe one or two clarifications about how a new mechanic may work in Commander, if there's any confusion on that front. If they're working on some kind of project, maybe an update on a project. But boy, boy, is this one a little bit different. We got 4 cards banned in the format of Commander, and they are the first bans that have happened since September of 2021, meaning it's been a full 3 years. And that also means, kind of unironically, this is probably the first ban that the majority of active EDH players have seen in their life, given the growth of the format over the last 3 years in comparison to the rest of its history. All right, the cards. Dockside Extortionist, Mana Crypt, Jeweled Lotus, and also Nadu Winged Wisdom. Thoughts?
None. Emma, I don't suppose you have any. End of the show. See you later, everybody. Card Conduit is the sponsor today. You can find me at Moderately Anonymous MTG on all the platforms. I mean, where to start? This is I think, arguably the biggest like EDH change up ever, right? Like,
I would say we've never had. Not close.
It feels like
yeah.
It. 3 years is like a long time in Commander time as well.
And to think of what the last one was as well. That was it solely Flash, or was that Lutri as well?
Didn't Wildfire get unbanned? Didn't something get unbanned?
Oh, that's right.
The last ban that we had in September of 2023, it was Golos, which was also a pretty big shakeup ban because, at least per EDH rec stats, however relevant those are to the wider world of Commander, it was the most popular commander. So the most popular commander was banned 3 years ago, and they also unbanned a card. It was the first time that had happened in a long time. So that was a pretty big shakeup, but definitely not to the tune of 2 of the most played cards in the format, and then also another really highly played card in the format. This is like unprecedented territory for sure.
Yeah, for someone who plays the more competitive end of the spectrum, this like fundamentally changes the way that we're going to be playing EDH from here on out, pretty much until something else changes, right? I'm curious to see how much it affects casual EDH players. I'm online, obviously, the people who tend to be chronically online tend to be Jeweled Lotus enjoyers. So not surprised to see many people bemoaning the end of an era. And like you said, for many people, this is the only era that they've lived in. I've seen so many people refer to Jeweled Lotus as a staple of the format, and it's only existed for 2 years or something like that, right? I can't remember exactly when Commander.
So it came out in Commander Legends, right? Commander Legends was about 4 years ago, because the RC actually put out a tweet like a month after Commander Legends release, going, we have this Jeweled Lotus on a watch list.
Okay, so older than I thought, but still, I mean, like, we can all remember a time before Jeweled Lotus here on this call right now.
November 20th, 2020 is indeed the date. Yep.
So yeah, a pretty big shakeup. I have no idea where to even start with this. I don't know.
Go by card. That might make it easier.
Yeah. So let's just go card by card. Let's start with, I think, what we'll have the least amount of discussion about: Nadu Winged Wisdom. This card may be the funniest Magic the Gathering card of all time. Redesigned at the last second to try to make it appeal more to Commander players. Accidentally destroyed an entire constructed format and a whole Pro Tour for several months, got banned there, and then right soon after got banned in Commander for what I lovingly have called over and over again the Paradox Engine problem. All it does is incentivize, when it's at its best, it incentivizes players to just take a bunch of game actions with no actual end goal in mind, and it may create a winning board game state, but even like executing that winning board game state just takes up a ton of time, monopolizes all the game actions. Nadu got banned because Paradox Engine is a banned card. You can't put that exact same problem into the command zone and expect people to be responsible with it. So I'm not surprised to see this at all. I am a little bit sad to see it go on the CEDH end of side of things, because Nadu was looking like the first new, interesting, actually powerful enough to get some wins in, like Commander, that we had gotten on that side of the format in a long, long time. But I'm not going to miss it.
I guess I'm not surprised to see it go in some sense, but I have only experienced it in either Vintage Cube or in CDH, where like the concerns about taking long turns are less so, because that's just sort of the conceit that you make when you're going to be playing these things of like, you're probably going to lose to some kind of fucked up combo. I put out a video yesterday on my YouTube channel talking about these bands and speculating a little bit on them. I think I was more surprised to see Nadu than any of these other ones go, I think by a long shot. And I'm curious to see what the two of you think about this prospect, that I don't know if these other things were getting banned that we would have necessarily seen a ban on Nadu. I think I tend to think about Magic and specifically EDH like over the very long term, and I feel like Nadu is destined to be a somewhat forgotten commander over time. I would think, just because of the frequency with which cards come out and how powerful they are all the time. Like I think that its time on the throne would have been not necessarily short-lived, but I think there would have been an expiration date on it. I think it's one of those things where, like, if we weren't already making an announcement and it wouldn't like be the cause of its own emergency announcement or something like that at 6 months, I don't know that I necessarily think that Nadu would have been banned right now. I do think that it kind of would have faded into just the ether of other powerful Magic cards, but I'm curious as to what you both think about that.
It's interesting because Nadu's the kind of card that just gets potentially more powerful the more cards see print, right? Any effect that is free, Shuko style card that comes along just makes Nadu better. Sure, it's a little harder to do in Commander because it's singleton. You need to run a dozen of the similar effect. But if it's just stealing like the Commander pod's time for no tangible result, is it worth keeping it around? And you have to understand this is a lot about play experiences, hence why probably stuff like Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus got the ban as well. But yeah, generally, this is just good future proofing in case, something does come along that just makes Nadu a little bit more obnoxious. And as Cal said, if it's similar to a card that's already banned in Commander, it's probably inevitable at some point. Interestingly, when Nadu was basically unconfirmed but to get a ban, like before the announcement properly came out, tons of people bought Nadus because they were expecting an OK Fisa Crown situation where, this card's going to get banned in Constructed, but it's going to have a really good role in Commander. So a lot of people, spec'd on it financially because Nadus were like $2, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So a ton of people bought it. I remember writing about it for TCG Player. It was like, this card's getting banned, but people are buying it because they're speccing on Commander. Now it's been banned in Commander, despite Wizards trying to, change the design to accommodate Commander players. That's also probably made some, more the finance-leaning folks a bit miffed because they're sitting on a pile of 4 dozen Nadus that they can't shift.
Well, yeah, which now simply has no home whatsoever to go
outside
to.
Of
either outside of Legacy, yes, because it is.
Hey, people I just talked about Vintage Cube too, man. You can play one copy of it in there for everyone who owns a Vintage Cube.
I should own a Vintage Cube. I honestly should. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think this is just like, when it comes to these kind of things, I am someone who has kind of wished that we did have like something more like the Banned as Commander tool available to the rules committee. Because I think like Nadu is a really interesting card that could go into some 99s and do some cool stuff. But this does seem like the one time where they've taken the chance, where they've like seen an obnoxious commander. A lot of people aren't super happy about it. It has a lot of abusability potential, and they just like nipped it in the bud. But I kind of wish they had done that to more commanders in the past. But it's a lot harder to put things onto a ban list than a ban by commander list, maybe. All right, I suppose we should move on to the real meat on the bone here, huh?
Not the one no one cares about.
Yeah, just the one that everyone... We just talked for almost like 10 minutes about the card that everyone kind of looked at and was like, well, I wasn't exactly anticipating it, but makes sense, I guess.
So I forgot to bring it up like 4 different times when I was listing them in the YouTube video. Yeah. It's like, and Nadu.
I caught myself, much like you just published a video, I just finished up writing a fairly extensive article on the topic that I shipped on over to Emma right at the end of her workday. And over and over again, as I was writing it, I was like, these 3 banned cards.
I know.
Just like, yeah, exactly. It's like these
Which is
4.
hard to think about, considering it's kind of a testament to like current like design in the last 3 to 4 years, where we're talking about a Commander BNR and Nadu is like an afterthought.
Yeah, one of the most broken cards they've printed in a very long time. Yeah. Yes, exactly. No, I was writing it and I was just like, yada, yada, yada. I was just like in the middle of my CEDH section because I wrote like, oh, here's how I think the impact will be on normal Commander games. Here's what's going to happen in CEDH. And here's all my overarching thoughts about the finances, whatever, who cares. And then I was writing the CEDH section, and then I realized I had simply left Nadu entirely out of the normal Commander section.
So we conclusion chat.
Poor guy.
And I had to go back and finish that right up. I was like, this guy's Paradox Engine. Go next. All right, let's move on. Dockside Extortionist. Dockside Extortionist, I think, is, of the big 3 cards that were banned, the least surprising. Dockside Extortionist has kind of been like at the top or near the top of a lot of people's wish lists for cards to be banned in the format. It is a card that has been called out by name in more than one quarterly update as something that the Rules Committee is considering and maybe is concerned about, and they're listening to opinions on and want specific thoughts on. And, so if there is anything approaching a Rules Committee watch list, I would say that Dockside has been the main thing on it through their communication channels over the last several years, pretty much ever since 2019, when it was first printed. Holy moly, that card was printed nearly 5 years ago. Where does the time go? Yes, in a pre-con. Thank you, Glenn Jones. I was just listening to that episode of Casual Magic actually recently, and I was like, oh yeah, they did this on purpose. Yes, Dockside Extortionist, you love them, you hate them. Personally, I love them.
I'm a huge Dockside lover, and I've never been happier for something to get nixed out of this format.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I mean, alongside Jeweled Lotus, I think just an egregious design mistake, just the sort of territory that R&D should not try to enter in regards to Commander, just making something that powerful and just that busted and explosive, because there's really like every indicator of what the RC tries to make Commander into in terms of a social experience is the antithesis of those cards, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed.
And I think the really the tough spot, the one part of me, like Dockside, egregious design decision, insane card, best ritual ever printed, best ramp spell ever printed. We have Pyretic Ritual banned in some formats.
I was going to say, think of the other 2-mana rituals that exist. Pyretic Ritual, Manamorphose, Cabal Ritual.
And these cards are banned in formats.
Yeah.
And then here comes Dockside and it says, oh, I cost 2 mana. You can bounce me back to your hand and do it again very easily. You can flicker me if you want.
If you wanted to.
Oh, the mana? It's any color, and it sticks around through phases.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, as a person who loves EDH and who loves to navigate an ad nauseum pile, etc., and those really hard combo turns, so like the just Grixis Storm piles, like it is the kind of card that takes out any thinking you might need to do, or like any risk that might come in into the equation while you're navigating these lines. Like it is just the kind of card that makes Magic unfun to play because it leaves no problems left to solve.
Yep. It just solves all your problems. It does it all for you. The one thing that I am a little bit sad about Dockside Extortionist being banned is specifically from a CEDH perspective. Dockside in CEDH got a lot of flack from people who are used to seeing it come down for 2 mana, make the Grixis player 8 treasures, and then they have kind of like what you were just alluding to, Dan. There's just no mystery anymore. They have it all. They've got it all going on, whatever. But I think Dockside also did a lot of really heavy lifting behind the scenes to make a lot of like Sans Dimir decks and maybe a little bit less efficient, less a good CEDH decks a little bit like better. You know, they could play their Dockside. Absolutely. And being able to make that much mana would make their slightly less efficient win con than Underworld Breach or Thassa's Oracle or whatever be able to go the distance. And then there's also the decks that quite literally relied upon Dockside Extortionist like as their main win con decks.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Corval, Temur, Thrasios, Piles. Yes, yeah, there's exactly. So many decks that are just completely hinging on.
Yes, Dockside. There were decks where Dockside loops were like potentially the 3rd best win con in the format, and they were win cons that were available to a lot of CEDH decks that just couldn't do the Thassa's Oracle stuff or the Underworld Breach stuff. And losing that, I think, is going to be a bit of a blow to format diversity or whatever you want to say. But as frustrating as that is, good riddance, actually. Emma, are you a big Dockside caster in all of your EDH games that you play?
I'm betting Emma can count the amount of times. It's 0?
Count 0.
I was going to say, how many times have you seen Dockside Extortionist hit the battlefield, period?
I mean, a few times, and the person who cast it won the game, unsurprisingly, because it does everything.
Yeah, it's annoying.
So I was considering picking one up for Mulgard, because it's like it's just a good red card, right?
Sure is.
But it's like, do I want to be that person on a weekly command and be like, oh, look, here's my tattoo Dockside, lol, 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 whatever, you know? And it's just like, yeah, that's not fun. The card is just like, I don't think that card should have been designed and got free the stuff it should have. And yeah.
Yeah, if the point is 3 people.
I'll draft it in Cube, but Commander.
Sure. Yeah. If the goal of having a 4-player game is to have like some sort of like competition, Dockside Extortionist really takes the sense of a competition out of things.
You may
like
as
if
well,
you've just got 8 mana for no reason, there's a lot of ways to win with that.
Let every player like have one in their hand. That's the only way you can kind of make it fair, and then that's the problem in itself, right? You should just not play the card.
Yes. Yeah, this is, I think, like Cal said, this is going to make some CDH decks unplayable. It is going to make certain color pies a lot less viable in the CDH meta. But again, the train of releases does not stop rolling. This, like, the power vacuum will be filled up by something else, unfortunately, somewhere down the line. Whether or not it's more or less egregious than Dockside Extortionist remains to be seen. But yeah, like, I'm glad to see it go. I hope that this helps, like, breathe some new life into the meta. I mean, we're not even halfway through this list now because we're not even done talking about this one yet.
Well, I have one more thing to say about Dockside, and that is that unfortunately Dockside Extortionist getting banned again in the vein of CDH does mean that my Malcolm decks are just that much worse because that is one less playable pirate.
My Discord was making the argument that Temur Malcolm might be the best like Temur deck post Dockside Extortionist. Oh yeah,
and I think I would agree.
Quite true.
I would agree. Now that Dargo doesn't get to mess around with Dockside treasures anymore, yes.
Oof, I've got a big Dargo stand in my Discord, and he was not happy this morning. Yeah. R.I.P.
All right.
Speaking of Dargo,
I was about to say, speaking of cards that are really good with Dargo, let's move on to Jeweled Lotus, another egregious design mistake that personally I enjoyed, but I am not surprised that it was banned.
I've benefited from many times.
Yes, Black Lotus for your commander, a great idea, an interesting concept, and I think I would have loved it a lot more if it wasn't just $100 for the entirety of the time that it existed. $80 to $100.
Is Black Lotus and Commander really a great idea, though? That's, I think, one of the questions to ask.
I think it's a fun idea. I think, like, so much of how I think about Commander and all that kind of stuff is just, like, actually, the better and easier it is to cast, like, your creature that you care about the most, that you probably have built your theme of your deck around in this casual environment, probably the better. But
that card already exists, though. It's called Sol Ring.
Yeah, Truth. I know. You're right.
It's called Land of Worlds. It's called Wild Growth. They exist.
It's called Rampant Growth. Look it up.
Arcane Signet is a really good example. You know, this card that came around during like Brawl decks in 2019, 2020, you know.
whatever Eldraine
yeah,
was.
like I think like something like LED I think is far more in line with like where I think a Black Lotus should be coming into Commander. Not that I think like, you know, because people only use black LED for evil, but like the thing I'm trying to say is that like your Black Lotus should come with some sort of stipulation. Like yeah, this just, I don't know. It doesn't create a very great environment for, because I think also a big part of it is how many paragraphs of text the average commander has on it in the year of our Lord 2024. Being able to cast your 14 paragraph commander on turn 1 with your 3 free mana tends to not make for a very fun game.
Yep.
Helps in packs, eh?
Yep. It's
sure
like
do.
it's like I
Sure
saw
do.
it's like I saw a Brian Koval tweet kind of sarcastically. He's like, "Oh my gosh, Voja actually got Jeweled Lotus banned in Commander." But so yes, I have a lot of idealistic thoughts about Jeweled Lotus. Like, there's a lot of things that you could say that are theoretically good about it. Like, getting your commander out better could be construed as great. It incentivizing playing more expensive commanders is something that could be said about it. However, I think how this card actually did play out was it incentivized people to think so much about like how Jewel Lotus was so good that if you cared about this kind of stuff, you had to say, oh, why would I ever try to cast a 7-drop on turn 3 with Jeweled Lotus when I could cast a 3-drop on turn 1 or a 4-drop on turn 1 or a 5-drop on turn 2 with Jeweled Lotus and basically get just as much value. It's just that much easier to do it. And
I mean, at the end of the day, it's basically the same comparison we just made with Dockside Extortionist, right? Like, if you put it in the hands of a weaker deck, it's a really awesome and cool tool, but unfortunately, there is no restriction on who gets to play it.
Yes.
So Rockside also gets it.
yes, definitely. A lot. It's just, yeah, I don't know. Jeweled Lotus, I think, to me, is the ban that feels... from like an outsider perspective, I saw a lot of people being confused. They're like, why would you ban this card that was printed for Commander? It's just useless paper now. Well, I don't think that's the Commander's RC's... I don't think that's the RC's problem, actually. Oh. That's... They did not ask for that card to be designed. I would go so far as to guess that, like, if they were shown the card ahead of time, they probably would have said, please do not print that card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever talked to anyone who's on the RC, like, these are... None of these cards are their cup of tea by a long shot. I've had many discussions with Gavin about how much he hates Dockside Extortionist, and I'm sure he was happier than anyone to see that come out. Yeah. Yeah, it's
the problem you have is that since Wizards are pushing the Commander narrative in packs in Commander Focus Release, stuff like Commander Legends and Commander Masters, which both had Jeweled Lotus, the problem is the RC cannot keep up with the cadence that Wizards is trying to push Commander on people. So it does leave things like Dockside and Jeweled Lotus just kind of hung out to dry for a while. People just play these cards. And also, it's Commander. It's not constructed where you're playing the same cards every time you play Commander. Like the testing and just getting an idea of stuff just takes longer because there's more variants because it's a 100-card deck. But yeah, just like the RC are going to be slower on this just because Wizards are printing and producing more Commander-related product at breakneck speed. And the RC doesn't have a way to just, insulate against that or test it because the format is just so bigger and so more varied compared to something like Modern or Pioneer or Standard.
Yeah, I think... I guess we could kind of just like skip over Mana Crypt and talk about like more... philosophical things surrounding these bannings because like everything that we've said about like Dockside and Mana Crypt also just, I mean, Jeweled Lotus kind of just applies to Mana Crypts. It's really powerful. Yeah. It's really good. It theoretically can do good. It's very expensive, but it doesn't do good. It's a free mana rock that gives you 2 mana, and it theoretically has a huge downside if you had 20 life, but unfortunately you have 40 life.
I will say that Mana Crypt is the one of the bunch that I was like, ooh, that hurts me in my soul. I don't like that.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna make a trade, I'll trade Mana Crypt for Dockside Extortionist and Jeweled Lotus every single time.
Fair enough. So obviously these bannings have caused the most hurt, not hurt, but a lot of controversy, what have you, is I think twofold. The number one was kind of just the shock factor. I will admit, when I first saw like a screenshot in a Discord at everyone or whatever, I was in the middle of my work day, moments away from being laid off. And I said,
TMI guy.
and I said, that looks fake. And then I went on twitter.com and it was real. Like I saw it and I was like, oh, they aren't going to do that.
Scoop Phase, he posted it in my Discord and I was like, funny joke, Scoop.
I was like, is this just, someone shit posting because welcome to Magic Twitter 2024? Yep. And it's like, oh no, there's actually cards banned. Okay, this is a big deal.
Yeah. It's like,
probably do something about this.
Did Carrie log back on? I don't get it. Yes, exactly. So I think it was very shocking to people. Like, Nadu kind of makes sense. Dockside, a lot of people, it's been on and off the radar, so not the end of the world.
For years.
Yep. Yeah. But Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus, I think, really struck a lot of people out of nowhere. And there is also a big part of that was this is, without question, easily like the most financially impacting like announcement of all time for Magic the Gathering cards, maybe ever, except for like the creation of the reserve lists, its impacts on finances now, 25 years
if we
later.
Go over the other cards that have been banned, Flash was a couple of dollars. Golos was $10 tops.
Yep. And a lot of, for EDH bans, a lot of these cards weren't that expensive. But even if you look at constructed bans, maybe how a lot of constructed bans work, by the time the ban comes down, a lot of people are anticipating it, have been asking for it, have been thinking about it for a while now. The community has had time to digest that the ban is probably coming. People have had the chance to offload their cards if the cards are worth money, and the card's value has probably gone down by such and such an amount already. And, the community can kind of like approach the concept of a ban together, and the ban comes and everyone goes, yep, my card for this competitive format is no longer usable. I get it. And then here, kind of what Emma was alluding to, Commander has been the name of the game for most of the last 5 years for Wizards of the Coast. And part of that it has been very apparent to me that both Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus were like 1A and 1B of whatever strategist inside of Wizards of the Coast gets to like decide these things. We're like 1A, 1B. We are selling these to Commander people as like the creme de la creme of their collections. These are the cards that will be rare. These are the cards that we are going to very, limit how much we reprint them. When we reprint them, they will be mythic, and there will be a version of it that will end up being $500. It's just like very apparent that these two cards, especially Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus, someone at Wizards of the Coast who knew how to make a lot of money decided that these cards were going to be worth a lot of money, and that would drive a lot of demand for packs or what have you. And that has then created a very unfortunate situation where, because Wizards of the Coast has obviously made that decision internally, now we're here where the rules committee has, I would say somewhat out of left field, decided that they want to like readjust where the floor is for fast mana in the format that enable explosive starts. If you're going to get rid of these cards, well, you're going to wipe a lot of value away from people's collections. I saw people doing some really rough math online, and they were like, oh, if we can believe these numbers, which we probably can't, but there's a lot of stuff probably not represented here. It's very likely that this decision like removed over $100 million of cardboard value like from existence like instantaneously, like over the course of like 12 hours.
And this is also, I would assume, looking at like the prices on TCG Player yesterday, which are roughly 50% of what they formerly were, which I would be very surprised.
They're not going to stay that high.
That maintained.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is people huffing copium and trying to get rid of their stuff before they really can't get rid of their stuff.
Yep. So, Mana Crypts were $200. I personally don't have a Mana Crypt right now because I sold it to buy some dual lands. But there's people out there with 2, 3, 4 of them. A lot of people have Masterpiece Mana Crypts, which like very well may be the creme de la creme of their collection. Or a lot of people have sprung for the very cool Ixalan ones that came out relatively recently. I was thinking about doing so recently, and obviously now I'm happy that I didn't. A lot of people have rushed out to buy, or in the case of one of my friends, like scrimped and saved and traded towards, getting the textured foil borderless Jeweled Lotus from Commander Masters. Because, people like to express themselves, and a way to express yourself is by owning the blingiest version of your cards and whatnot. And some people do enjoy that. And all of that stuff has just been like eradicated from existence now. And it's a really tough discussion because, yes, it is like technically the rules committee's fault in that the rules committee made the decision to ban these cards. But I think the decision to ban the cards makes sense. And I think a lot of the resulting financial fallout lies a lot more at the feet of like very obvious, very purposeful decision making by Wizards of the Coast over the past 5 years. There's been a lot of chances to reprint these cards. 4-year-old Jeweled Lotus is 4 years old. Dockside is 5 years old. They both have received 1 reprinting. Mana Crypt has received, I would argue, 0 meaningful reprints in the last 5 years. It was technically in Mystery Booster, and it was a special guest in was it in another set? I may be forgetting about it being in a set.
I was thinking Double Masters 2022.
Yes, Double Masters 2022.
But again, at Mythic, so not the most substantial reprint it could have had by a long shot.
Double Masters 2 is basically its only substantial printing because my understanding of its special guest printing in Ixalan did not actually super meaningfully add supply versus demand in our current era. So
plus you had like 5 different printings at all different rarities or all different values because they were all different colors. So it wasn't, the special guest stuff aren't proper reprints because they appear in like 1 in 20 play boosters, something like that, or 1 in 60 play boosters, something ridiculous like that. So they're not common. It's just a way to sell more packs, which is, why it was in Ixalan.
Yep. Definitely. So yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say about the bans. I feel bad. I think obviously this is a huge decision. It's kind of wild that this is the first major anything that we've gotten from the rules committee over the last 3 or 4 years. What a way to go. What a way to start maybe more active management of the format again. But financial stuff aside, there's some stuff that could be quibbled with here, but I think my main takeaway at the end of the day is that I think the average Commander game will be better without these cards in it. And at the end of the day, I think that's kind of what I care about the RC doing.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to be a positive change for the social aspect of the format. And I mean, it stinks that a lot of people have lost value from their collections, and I've seen a lot of people express that sentiment, and the sentiment that they might want to sell out of Magic. And let me tell you, if you only play EDH, there's never been a better time to do it. You don't need real cards to play EDH. You can write on a post-it note. No one cares. There's no EDH police. You don't need to spend $500 on a Jeweled Lotus. No one can make you do that.
And on that note, if you did still want to buy Magic the Gathering cards, boy, do we have some stuff to talk about. It's time for the Product Watch.
Product Watch.
Smooth transition.
The Product Watch is presented by Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. Yes, including your entire EDH deck now that you're done with the format. After all, you need to clear out space for all of the new products we're about to discuss. Brought to you by the beloved team behind Card Hoarder, Card Conduit does the hard work of getting you the best buy list prices available for your cards. All you have to do is send them one package, taking advantage of your selection of their 3 services. I use the Sorted service, which has you collate and enter cards ahead of time in return for the lowest fees. Don't worry, you can just send them a huge box of random unsorted cards too, and they'll figure it out. I've used Card Conduit myself 5 different times to thin my collection, soon 6, and have had exclusively great experiences. Use code HORN at checkout or use the link in the podcast description to get 10% off your fees and help support the show. I did just look at cardconduit.com, and I am thinking about throwing in my damaged Dockside Extortionist into it and seeing if they give me anything. Right now, it does say that they are buy listing them at $12.
Hey, not bad, not bad.
Not bad. I would take that.
I would guess that by the time my package gets to them, the number would be lower, personally.
So you got to lock that price in right now.
Lock it in.
Yeah, right?
I've got a really great Dockside artist proof from Forrest Emmel, and on the back it's a picture of Dockside like diving into the pool of coins, a la Scrooge McDuck.
All right, let's move.
15 for that.
15.
Maybe.
Oh, ooh. Hey, you can DM me at no. All right, let's move into the product watch proper. Duskmorn is here. Do we have any thoughts about Duskmorn being here? Anyone at all? Emma and I talked about it pretty extensively. Dan, I actually wanted to ask because Emma and I, not the biggest horror fans, enjoy a lot of what's going on mechanically in the set. The flavor, all that kind of stuff has me kind of off it. How do you feel about the flavor and whatnot of Duskmorn?
Yeah, I think I might have heard you accuse me last week of like maybe being a fan of it. I'm not.
Look, I was hoping that you, as like a known horror movie lover, would be like, yeah, this is for me, but
no, I don't. I'm not super big into like referential things. Like, I don't know, it doesn't purely make me happy because there is the floating balloon man or whatever, and I do like it. Fantastic book, great movie. I don't care that there's a magic card. I got to do the early access event, and it was a lot of fun to draft. I thought Limited was a ton of fun. Lots of really interesting cards. Don't really know how it will affect constructed formats, but people seem quite excited about Standard and the new addition of cards to it. So it seems like they did a pretty good job with it overall. From a set that I really wasn't like excited about in any sense to now being like, these cards are cool and I like the Limited environment, I'd say successful in my opinion.
Emma, the set has come. It's been 2 weeks. It's out. Perhaps you have even gotten to interact with it a little bit through pre-release or arena. Maybe not. I know you've looked at every single common and uncommon for inclusion in your Peasant Cube. How are you feeling about the set now that it's here?
So I haven't played any of the set. I didn't play the pre-release or anything like that. But I've watched a ton of content, like early access streams and things like that. And it... like, the design of the cards seem really fun and interesting. I'm just not big on the horror theme. I can take it or leave it. I'm like, cool, this card's spooky. I'm like, yeah, I'm more interested in the fact it does, like, Manifest Dread stuff. Or, you know, I think Brooms are a really cool design. To be interesting to see if they see play in Standard or Pioneer or whatever. Yeah, I'm indifferent because I'm just not a big horror person, so I don't feel gravitated towards it, but I can appreciate it from a design standpoint. Considering Bloom Burrow was very shallow, not in a bad way, but shallow in a way to make it more embracing for more people, whereas Duskmorn is the opposite. It's more a little more for enfranchised players, more for competitive players than most. So I can appreciate that as an enfranchised Magic player.
Yeah, especially with like rooms and things. I thought that was like really interesting design space, and I agree with you. Like, Bloomburrow did not have that sort of thing where I was like, oh, this is a really interesting way to think about designing this set and playing these limited games and things like that. Duskmorn, I think, definitely better on that front. But again, you could slap literally any image on the cards, and it would have the same effect on me.
Same.
I do think the theming, the more I've looked at it, the theming for me is kind of just like actively detracting for me for whatever reason.
It's very conflicting.
I think that's how I feel too, ultimately.
Because, well, some of the stuff I do really like. The stuff where they kind of just went all into kind of like a lot more psychological horror. This stuff is just like a crazy bug, a crazy monster, a crazy demon, whatever. That fits within like my silly little headcanon of what can and should be a Magic the Gathering card. And then there's the guys with walkie-talkies and the flashlight and the chainsaw and the really cheesy 80s cheerleaders and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, I don't that care. Sort of thing is very.
You have the glimmers as well, which are these cute little adorable animals that are just running around, and then you have these overlords, which are just chilling as well. Just feels like there's a lot going on. Also, the Overlord. Have any of you seen like the Fracture Foil Overlord cards? They just look like Pokemon cards.
I have not.
Just gonna put that out there.
They have like the fractured foil frame that you would like very early 2000s, late 90s kind of thing. Yeah, it's very intense. They look cool to a certain extent. Not very Magic cardy. We've had this discussion several times on the show of like what does and doesn't look like a Magic card, but I think this one's a little bit further on the spectrum of like you said, it looks much more like a Pokemon card than it does. I think that's
intentional, to be honest. But
Yep.
I mean, Pokemon cards are really cool, like undeniably. Yeah, like they look rad. Some of them do have that sort of like 2000s, early 90s nostalgia of the weird foiling. But overall, I think Magic cards are pretty well designed in terms of their aesthetics.
Somebody saying on Twitter the fractured foils look a lot like from a TCG that came out in the 2000s that's just defunct.
Yes, I also saw that and thought, very apropos. I think so too. Yeah, totally.
Well, it's here. It's our standard set for the time. And that's Duskmourn.
Oof, rough.
I don't know what else to say.
Just a big sigh and a groan for me.
Yeah. What if we replaced it entirely with Bloomborough 2 Electric Boogaloo?
I would take that, but I am an oldish Magic player, and I would happily take blocks again.
I do miss blocks.
Just to capture
we were doing 2-set blocks for a while, right?
We were, yes.
Huh?
We were doing 2-set blocks for a while, right? I think that's like an excellent number to do.
Yeah. I mean, we had the Innistrad sets, which were air. Then you had Mice and Machine Aftermath, which was also air.
That was a weird way to do that. 2 blocks.
I mean, they were doing it with OTJ as well because the big score was going to be an Aftermath product. So technically, OTJ was going to be 2 sets, and they had to scrap that and put that into the set, and everyone got annoyed about the set codes.
And then Emma's future for her Twitter account for every set release was permanently set. Yeah. Dearest Emma, what do these set codes mean? Well, now they're just the same for every article. Set.
It will tell you all. I'm regurgitating just what Wizards say.
No, but Emma, you put such a great spin on the content. You really you have it down.
I don't put a spin. I just put a platform for people to complain.
Yeah,
exactly. That's all anyone wants.
Yeah.
All right, we've got one more thing I kind of want to talk about here in the product watch. It's not announced product yet, but we did get some fun little leaks. If you don't like hearing about leaks like Dan doesn't, leave the show. Stop listening. Leave the show. Stop listening. You don't have to be here. Dan just quit the show permanently. So,
is the jacket mine?
Shit, no, I'm back.
I'm not going to get too into depth here, but there was some leaks of Marvel-themed Magic the Gathering cards. Not even Marvel-themed. They are Marvel cards. Yeah, they're new cards. They're new Marvel cards. But they look to be some kind of secret layer drop. They're packaged individually. They have the SLD set code on them. Emma, what's this SLD set code?
It's a secret layer drop series.
I know.
Did they? Am I mistaken in thinking that someone got these images off of Temu? Is that where they came from? I heard it was some
Facebook Marketplace.
I forget where it was. Facebook Marketplace.
If the Reddit source is accurate, someone was like, "Hey, I have these these Marvel cards that I'm willing to sell for an amount." They also had the Chucky secret lair cards as well as the Magic the Baseballing ones, I believe.
Yeah, like some older ones.
I'm selling these publicly on a social media platform where Wizards of the Coast and Disney lawyers can see, and I can get in big trouble, but I'm going to sell them anyway. Very
imagine messing around with Disney IP, actually. Not
right.
On Facebook.
Like, I wouldn't want to mess with Wizards lawyers anyway, but Disney lawyers, that's like a new layer of lawyering that I just
if you think the Pinkertons are bad, you don't want to know who Disney's going to send to your door.
I think this is interesting. The designs look pretty neat. If you want to check out the Reddit post, I will put the Reddit post, the Reddit post with the images of the cards and all that kind of stuff. I will put that into the podcast description, so you can go and find that if you so choose. There are 5 of them. Pretty predictable characters. There's also in the picture, there is they also just have a bunch of the Sheldon Teferi's protection in the photo. So you can go and look at the Sheldon. Somebody did posit that there's no way that this is real because the picture looks like a real photo.
That is true.
Rather
Normally
than being,
they are potatoed into oblivion intentionally.
Yeah, rather than just like looking like a pile of pixels, it looks like pictures of Magic the Gathering cards.
Normally like leaked pictures that like they've gone through paint several times and saved at a lower quality.
Yep. Well, that's all we have for the product watch, everyone. So you know what that means. It's time to move on to the best part of the show. The part of the show where our co-hosts say whatever they want to say. They're no longer under my dictatorial thumb. It's time for the co-host's notebook. Welcome to the co-host notebook, the part of the show where Emma talks about the Carolina Panthers and Maude talks about touching grass. Emma, what do you have in your co-host notebook this week?
My team actually won a game of sports. Like, actually,
Yay!
They carried the ball over the line multiple times.
I'm very proud of
it. It was also against the Raiders, who suck.
Yeah, not a good team.
Hey, you take what you can get, you know?
I mean, as a Carolina fan, I have to.
I have personally, I would say I have always been an Andy Dalton believer. I have always believed in the Ginger, I don't know his nickname. I've forgotten what it is.
There's too many.
The Ginger Rocket.
It might be the Ginger Rocket.
I was just about to say the same thing, Cal. I always believe the same thing about that same guy.
Oh, my apologies. It's the Red Rifle.
Oh, that sounds so American.
Yeah.
Of course it's a rifle. Good Lord.
I mean, I was going to say, I was like, oh, is it the Red Rocket? But no, it would never be that.
I mean, the Red Rifle is, I think, directly equivalent to that. I don't know. I think it's a very lateral
American.
move. Yes.
Of course it's a gun.
It is, he's the red mall shooting.
Either way, we won a game. We're probably the only game we're going to win all season, but we've won a game, and
Yippee!
I'm happy. But also, the best sport is back this weekend, which is hockey, because preseason starts, and the Carolina team for hockey is actually quite good. So I'm excited to watch a good team that's from Carolina play sports.
And that's the one with the cool plane shape.
Yeah,
symbol
I call
too,
them
right?
the plain shave hockey team because I'm trying to make the crossover of sports and Magic, and I think a good way to do that is through set codes, which is very on brand for me and set symbols.
For you, yes.
And Carolina Hurricanes, I believe, is the only sports team that has a logo that's very similar to a Magic set symbol.
Yep.
If there is a better one, feel free to tweet me because I think it's a fun conversation. I think the Vegas Golden Knights might be close to something as well because it's just like a knight's head, which is probably a Magic set symbol somewhere.
I'm sure it probably is. That little helmet.
Oh no, there's like the Colts on an unset, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Sorry,
the unsets. There was the broken egg.
There's the U, right?
Okay, the horseshoe.
Yep, there's
the
a horseshoe.
U. That's kind of culty, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Okay. 2. Okay, now there's 2.
Yep. Now we can have rivalry. I'll become a Colts fan.
Go Colts, baby!
Yeah.
Make Cal happy.
I'm happy anytime there is a new Colts fan birthed into the world. Speaking of new Colts fans being birthed into the world, Dan, do you have anything to talk about today? Do you have anything?
Hi, I'm a little baby. I'm 1 second old. I was just birthed into the world. I love the Colts.
So how are you finding
their
American
set symbol
football?
is a little horseshoe. It's great. It's oblong. The ball, I mean.
Yeah. Are you gonna like put it in your mouth because you're a 2 second old baby?
Yes, it is very much like my binky, and I'll go.
Dan, what do you have in your co-host notebook?
I haven't been up to Magic things like at all over the past like month or so, and that's been really great. I played so little Magic that I'm actually like super invigorated by the new bans. So I know we're not supposed to talk about Magic in this section, but I'm legitimately excited about Magic in a way that I haven't been like in quite a few weeks. So that's been cool. getting a little bit colder, getting into spooky season. Been doing a lot of the spooky season viewings, working up my list of all the horror movies I want to watch over the next. I'm already doing it, so like more than 1 month. And also been getting back into replaying Dead Space with Louis Stardust.
Nice.
Yep. She has tried to play several times, but like much like me, white knuckles way too hard and can't make it through without screaming. So we're both being very brave and playing through together, and it's been a lot of fun.
Very nice. I tried to do that with some horror games, like with Jen, and I couldn't do it. Like I can't, even with someone, I just can't do horror games.
So I have a pretty good handle on it for the most part, because like I played through that game several times. I love that game a lot, to the point where I like have gotten over the fear, to the point where you're like, okay, this gun is not as good as this other gun, and I know that because of statistics and things like that. But Lua screams so loud and so emotionally that it scares the fucking shit out of me every time, and it has become a like scarier experience than it has been
because in the past she's just like screaming
so loud. Like I'm sitting right next to her and she is screaming for people in like the next 3 houses down.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
It's a good time. Highly recommended video gaming partner, Louis Stardust.
Excellent. I'll keep that in mind. All right, that's all we have this week for the Herald's Horn. Thanks so much for listening. Emma, Dan, thank you for joining me. Do you have anything else you would leave our listeners with before we go?
Yeah, go check out the YouTube. Go check out the Twitch channel. Moderately Anonymous MTG on all the platforms. Cal is biting his windscreen for some reason. That's all I got.
Check Yeoman's 50 decks for Duskmorn. They dropped last week. It's real good. If you're looking to play Duskmorn, check that article out on TCG Player Infinite. Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, I will. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We've got an awesome interview coming up next. I know you'll love it, especially if you like Magic the Gathering art. Thanks for listening. Goodbye. Hey there. Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. If you want to help support the podcast, check out our Patreon. You'll get a sticker in the mail and access to our Patreon exclusive content, which I'm always cooking up more of every day. We've got bonus questions with guests, exclusive interviews, me thought dumping about Magic in my life. What else could you want? Plus, when we read letters to the editors, those sent through Patreon DMs or the Discord get first priority. Yep, we have a Discord that you'll be thrown into. Come talk to me about professional wrestling. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get back into this episode.
So, Cal, what do we have? What do we have today other than CEDH is falling?
I don't want to talk about that.
Other than Chicken Little the Story rebranded CEDH is falling. So not to be callous, but does it do you get to only pick 77 cards that are the same out of your 100 instead of 80?
It really just depends. No, I know exactly. I know. I was talking to someone about that. Even about like casual EDH. It's like, oh baby, we're you only have to play 15 cards now format instead of 17. Let's go, baby.
Right. This is perspective. I mean, I think we're just lucky that we've been around, that we've seen those things happen before. We have giant collections. We've won, we've lost, we've bought into stuff.
I think
gotten lucky.
A very real side effect of, and I mentioned this the first half of the podcast, and this is going to be on, and I mentioned this in my article, which is coming out tomorrow. The last ban that happened in Commander was 3 years ago, more or less on the dot, when Golos was banned. And that was the first one in a minute, too.
Beautiful painting.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? Like, I cannot imagine what percentage of, like, active EDH players started playing in between the Golos ban and now. I would garner a relatively high percent.
A lot. Well, that Lord of the Rings happened, so.
Yeah, well, Lord of the Rings happened, and, like, Golos was not banned that long after like the full-on shift to like precons every set, which was like a real shift in the landscape, and all that too. So it's just like, you know what, there's a very real world where like 55% of the people looking at this ban list or whatever have never actually seen a new card banned before,
or way higher. I mean, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The market doesn't know who Mark Rosewater is.
Yes,
the greater market doesn't go online.
Yeah.
They don't play with sleeves.
1,000%. Yes, exactly.
I mean, they're out there literally on grass, not even touching grass. They're playing on grass.
That is like the drum that I try to beat to all of my hyper invested Magic buddies who haven't been around that long, and they just don't get it.
You need to see it though. I mean, I'm from Middle America, so you know.
Me too.
The geek shame thing is real, and it's still lingering. You don't play in bars, and it's slowly starting to emerge. You go to Seattle, you see it everywhere.
Yep.
So I get those pieces quickly before we got 100 other topics here.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Cal.
Thank you for joining me here on the Harold Jordan podcast. It's great to have you here. I suppose I should formally introduce you. How about that?
I'm into that.
You're into that? Mike Linneman, or is it Leanman? I'm so bad at last names. That's a running joke on the podcast. The full last name. Can you dox yourself? Address as well?
I tend to just use Vorthos Mike because it's just the conciseness helps. It's like you're just Cal.
Yeah, I'm just Cal. People just call me Cal. It works.
It works well. For me, I have the second most common name in the world. Like, we're never going to beat Muhammad. Like, just ain't going to ever happen.
But Mike, you're fighting a good fight for second place.
Silver's still great. Nobody's mad.
Yep, exactly.
So last name is Linneman, rhymes with cinnamon.
I got it.
But one too many ends. I get it drawn, dropped off on the end all the time. It's too many ends. So I just try to keep that concise. And then I love going to Japan, and they don't know what to call me, and I like that. It makes me laugh because they assume that's my full name. It's great.
That's awesome.
Great. I love that.
All right, so Vorthos Mike, can you introduce yourself to the listening audience a little bit here?
Sure.
Besides just your name.
Sure. I'm Vorthos Mike. I do a lot of things in the art community surrounding around Magic. I'm most probably notable for doing the Magic art shows. If you were in MagicCon Philly, I did 3 of them, one on each day. It was a lot. Done 25th and 30th anniversary in Tokyo. I've done a show in Milwaukee. You've done a bunch more pop-ups all the time here. Did a big one and then kicked it off in 2017 at Vegas. That's what I'm known for. It's like a curator. That's the best term that would be closest to it. And after that, I'm one of the founding admins of the MTG Art Market. Really big. It's where 99% of all the Magic art gets sold. And I'm a broker, helper, agent, whatever you want to call it. To about 30 some artists in the Magic community. Some super active, some less active. Really depends. And those are the 2 big things. Other than that, for art, I've done a lot in my past. Art history degree, worked in a museum, worked as an art director. Did a little bit of creative things for Wizards.
Yeah, that explains a lot.
Yeah. So that intersection of who's worked in the fine art world and worked in commissioning art is a very, very small Venn diagram, and who's also worked within Wizards. So I have a very interesting perspective because I'm under 2 NDAs with Wizards.
Only 2?
Only 2, yeah. For art shows, you need to know things early. But that experience of it, and you see it when people buy prints, they get their cards signed. There's an ephemeral quality to the art. Otherwise, we're playing Uno.
Oh yeah. Well, it's like even for those who have paid a lot of attention, kind of to the behind the scenes stuff that Wizards of the Coast designers put out and stuff. They talk about how difficult it is to adjust, going inside the building and starting to play with cards without art. They have to relearn how to play Magic the Gathering because there's not even the shorthand of looking at art and recognizing cards that way. That's such a huge piece of what we're doing here, even from a playing the game ease of use design perspective.
Absolutely right. That's quicker. Shivan Dragon picture. Yep.
Yeah, so, exactly. I can picture it in my brain right now. I can picture 2 different arts in my brain right now.
Playtesting is so hard for that reason, right? It's not even flavorful. What's the point? And then also, I was a forum user on Magic's forum. My name is Fiber13 back in the day, and I wrote pretty prolifically. I lived in the art section of that old forum. And other than that, each proponent of artist things, really any questions that those things have. A lot of the questions that I get from Wizards employees, even can you explain this to me? I don't understand this piece. Or a new artist of I need to get up to speed. What do I bring to a MagicCon? I just get a lot of random messages all the time, day and night. And just stay active in that space, finding angles that we work in. And when something isn't defined, I usually have a hand in it behind the scenes. I just don't need to raise my hand about it. Not necessary. And then I also did write for Gathering Magic for pretty much a decade on art, weekly. And that's where a lot of people started getting engaged, seeing larger JPEGs instead of just small things. Yeah. And then it's kind of snowballed into now there is a massive market for many of the originals, so much so that artists have left like doing digital and moved to physical because there's a market for it. Literally stop taking other clients and only do magic, and they make way more.
Kind of crazy. Mike, what's it like being like the broker / agent? What's going on there? I know there's like two of you. I know only of two of you.
There's a handful of us.
I know of you and I know of Mark. Those are the two I know, but you are also the two most like prominent vocally.
Yeah, it's we're most active. It's fun. Often it's you get so many like micro touches to the community, and you really find out how global this game is. Every time it's like when we have community content people and there isn't someone internationally, I have to raise my hand because I'm like, listen, I'm talking to our Japanese community every day. I'm talking to European Magic players every day, because they want to pick up an art. Hey, I'm going to be sleeping. Can you get a bid in for me? And I'm like, yep, that's how real art galleries work. You got someone on the phone. They're putting it in for you. No different. And that part is really, really fun. And people are trying to figure out, hey, I'm looking for this, who has it? And I'm like, oh, I can talk to them for you. I can't guarantee. Like that's sort of like you start to gain and know where things are on a daily basis. That's why I wrote a big article about where all the alphas. It's a catalog resume. And I try to document where every alpha painting is to eventually do a show. And I know about maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of them.
So you're still missing a decent chunk.
A lot of them.
That's kind of crazy.
A lot of them are just people have one piece and they live in rural Washington, or it's a Wizards employee and they're not going to tell you that.
They're not going to tell you. You'll learn in 6 years when all of the rest of them start going out the door. Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually how it shakes out, or someone passes away. That's or something like that. So I've been ingrained in that because I want people to see it and touch it and feel it. And I think your experience as kids really impact your interactions with art. You go to a museum, don't touch anything, stop talking, stand in line, do that thing. And we as Magic players interact with art every day, but we don't think of it as the same art. And my overarching goal is to use this illustration, this thing we all like, and then it transitions to people to enjoy art, engage with art, talk about art, where they're like, hey, this little mountain picture is the same as the Hudson River Valley School of Painters. It's the same crap. It's commissioned. It just doesn't have any Jesus in it. That's fine.
It just has a little cardboard Jesus in it.
Yeah, some Gideon. Yeah. So it's a way for people to force them to re-engage with art, and then maybe they check out a museum. It always makes me sad at Magic Cons that people don't visit the local museum. I wish they did.
That's what I'm about. That's what I'm trying to do when I'm there. That's what I'm about. With my reciprocal membership, oh man, I'm getting in there for free. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, the accredited, I like that with the other things. There's nothing better than visiting a museum with other like art nerds or like artists. Oh, it's great. Love that.
I'm not an art nerd, or I try to be an art nerd. Okay. I am married to an artist / art nerd. So
go on.
Well, she's largely retired now that she works at the patent office, which can crush the creativity out of anyone.
Yeah,
but she really keeps up the art nerd side of her life.
I'm into that.
So yeah, Mike, I think I don't think I'm really being hyperbolic or whatever when I think you have been incredibly important in widening the variety and knowledge, the variety of knowledge concerning art in the Magic the Gathering sphere amongst us average plebeians. And thank you for that. It's appreciated. So what we've learned so far is we need to go to art museums when we go to Magic-Cons, and we should also be going to whatever art show you're hopefully throwing that weekend.
I hope so.
You have one coming up, right?
I do have one coming up. So yes, they should be visiting museums. I always tell people go to the 19th century landscapes. 19th century American landscapes. That's it. When you see like British, American, whatever, go to that. Because you're literally going to look at dual end art for like 20 minutes. And you're like, this
it's just sick. Like, oh, that's what that is.
That's neat. That's cool. And then you might deviate and see some Warhol, But you like that. Like you actually like that. And I know you're going to like that. I just need you to get there. So
yeah, you just need to go there, and you're going to go there and you'll be like, wait, these are what Magic cards look like. I like this.
It looks like a secret lair right there. I love that. I love that.
The modern art section
on Twitter where you're like, dude, this new secret lair is sick. And it's from like 1540 or something. I love that. Yeah, I do have a show coming up though. Coming up here on October 12th. Got a bunch of known associates. We're doing Cardboard for a Cause. It's a big charity weekend. I have an art foundation that raises money for scholarships for underserved artists, which sometimes are Black artists, sometimes they're Indigenous artists. There's people that in our field that want to join Magic, but the difference of art school and getting a first Magic commission is quality. You need a better portfolio. You can't just wing it.
Yep.
And some communities don't have the support. They don't have colleagues that can help critique. They don't have the support system where you can just go to Lifeline classes and get super, super good and you don't have to worry about rent. It's a class issue. So we said, okay, we're going to raise a bunch of money for this and then send me a portfolio link. If you get a portfolio, cool, fine. And we'll give them full ride scholarship to a camp. And these are artist camp run by like Jeff Miracola and like a Wizards art director comes. Steve Prescott, the artist, comes. Aaron Miller comes. And they're like, work with them. And they're like, all right, let me help you figure out this thing. And you're like, hold up, what? And I also get a job interview.
Yeah.
Neat. For free.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds great. And it's like, I think the Magic community needs some of this philanthropic things. They get it. So I figured, okay, we're going to do play games and silent auction, haha, whatever. Quest for the Jank and I are going to do some hot ones, which is like
nice.
Dan, but with 1 drops that are red and damage is chicken wings. It's spicy. It's going to be bad.
Fun. Yeah, but that's fun.
But during it, what if you don't want to play? What if you only got like 20 minutes because you have 6 kids? Well, let's just put some art up. So I'm going to take most of my collection and put it all around these walls. It's in Minneapolis, right on the river, Mississippi River, and let people see a bunch of art live and just be able to like experience it in the space in between rounds and just enjoy that. And it keeps my fire running.
Actually, like you can try to convince people to look at art and try to appreciate art or whatever, but if you can like literally bring it to them, that makes the first step that much easier to do.
Correct. We've learned this at MagicCons at Philly. You had to cross the street, and that was too much for people.
I'll tell you what, Mike. Embarrassingly, it was too much for me. You're
not the only person.
I know. It's kind of embarrassing, but
you're not the only person. There's been a lot of people, and I'm like, I'll open it early for you. I'll keep it open late for you, and they just didn't get to it. So we learned on that quickly that it has to be on site, has to be in a side room, if not on the show floor. The problem is insurance.
Yeah, I imagine that like if you're not in a fairly controlled environment, that can get pretty expensive pretty quickly.
Yeah, or impossible.
Yes.
Who would loan one of their artworks? Who would do that?
Yes, to being sat in the middle of a MagicCon hall.
Or you put it in a case. Are you going to buy cases for all of them? Expensive.
Yeah, expensive.
Are we going to rent them? Who rents them? So a lot of questions that we're trying to figure out that people don't go to museums. Okay. People won't cross the street. Okay. I need to physically put the art in front of your face for you to be like, oh,
I get it now.
Signal Pest's head is there, not there. Wild.
That's crazy.
But it forces you to interact and see it differently. And that's the goal. And it begins your reprogramming your brain from bad museum experiences into, oh, that's sick. And you're like, yes, that's what we want.
Definitely. I love it.
Yep, that's coming up. That's the only one this year. Next year I can't talk about yet, but we're working on some stuff.
But can you tell me about it?
I can't yet. It's not nothing's ready yet. But we're working on something for next year. And a little side thing I'm working on is trying to get some artists to do solo shows. Like Magic artists do a solo show at a place across the country.
Just get such and such a person come out, bring a lot of their cool stuff, / get some of their cool stuff that's owned by other people. Yeah.
You put it in a library. Maybe you have a talk. Maybe at an art school. Yeah. Things like that, which would be really, really neat and fun. It's just you need to coordinate those spaces because it's cost. The cost is immense.
Yep. Cost is very expensive. But I feel like especially that kind of stuff, like getting it into an art school, getting it into a library or whatever, I feel like that has a lot of potential, a lot of, it works a lot in the direction of where I feel like we've been moving already, which is like more and more legitimizing art generalized, whether it be literature, the created, painted, visual art, and so on and so forth, moving so much of what I think has been viewed as like genre to more of like what I think it very much could and should be viewed as, which I think you focus in a lot on, which is like high art. Not high. It's a capital A. Yes, capital A art. There's a lot of beautiful fantasy book covers out there or whatever that are actually just insane pastoral scenes that happen to have a weird freak with a sword painted on it. And so people are like, wait a second, what is this junk?
Strange.
When in fact, they simply shouldn't do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's that. So here's a question for you, since you're a CEDH big wizard.
Oh, yeah. That's me.
If we did an art show just on CEDH, say we did one show and it is one deck. You make one deck. So not all the art's going to be able to be traditional, right? Because it's just impossibility. Because you're not making enough variants of things, unfortunately.
Yep.
And you'd have some digital, mix of traditional, but you made everything big. And you could have a display and it'd be like all the way around, all haunted. You know, I do gold border white planes, you know, makes sense. Gold border planes, can't stop me. And you have all the way around, and it's one deck.
Like, what's it going to be?
Well, no, that's not what's it going to be. Is like, what would that mean to someone like you that's like, okay, how do we make it special? All right, the MagicCon before, the person that wins their CEDH tournament, all of their choices for their art and their deck,
that's the next thing. Yeah,
gets to be on the wall.
Yeah, I think that kind of stuff, that kind of appeal is just like huge, especially within, you know, CEDH. As much as people don't like to think about this, is very much rooted in a lot of the like casual appeal of EDH, and with that comes a lot of people put a lot of time and effort and thought into choices, what printings they're going to use, what art they would like, what altars they would have, you know, that kind of stuff. I think that would be like a huge deal. I think a lot of people would be really into that. Pretty
stoked. I could see it. Or you'd have like maybe a framed print in some cases. And then you do a frame of a jigs. I swear to God, I'm not getting paid by them. I just like a frame of a jigs. I'm not getting paid by them.
Yep.
But those frame of a jigs, and then you could borrow someone's deck.
Yeah.
Just like, I need to borrow your deck for the weekend, and each choice you have will be in the thing, and there'll be a sign on the side to say, co-curated by boy Cal.
So and so.
Yeah.
Curated by Cal. By winning a Magic the Gathering tournament. Well, I hope you can track down the original art for Secret Lair Drop 1148 Birds of Paradise.
Oh, I know where that is.
Specifically the child version.
Yeah, 1148 child version.
Yeah, it's one of the
yeah, I know where it is.
I know
where it is. Is it going to be framed well? I don't know. It has to be one of those open frames that you have for like children on your fridge.
Oh yeah,
put it in.
Dude, that's one of my favorite Magic arts of all time.
It's your boy Eli, age 8.
Yep, Eli, age 8. I think, to me, he captured the spirit of Bird of Paradise.
Kind of did.
Personally. Its diet consists of the rare Everberry, which tastes different every time. It loves the surprise.
Love it.
One of my favorite Magic arts of all time right there.
Yeah.
Exactly, but like that. Like
those ideas are on the shelf. They're not hard to execute. If people didn't have originals, I have yet to test that. But I think if it had a gimmick like that, where it'd be, Cal, whoever, their deck gets to be the whole thing. And guess what? There's going to be a game or two inside there after hours. If you're Black Lotus badges, you get to do it. You get to play in your space for a time. I think that creates a moment, very Disney-ified, that we just don't have yet. That's so... Yes, there's the unique Secret Lair cards, but not like that. That's different.
Not like that. Yes, definitely. Oh, Mike, I have a question from the audience. Question from the audience, which is to say my wife, who is listening from downstairs.
Nice. Nice.
She has a very inside baseball question, I guess. Wizards art direction has gone from highly, quote, artistic AD to very story beat driven renders of scenes, and then back towards more freeform and expressive pieces. Does this affect artists in their bottom lines? Does this change the art market? I imagine paintings that stand on their own as excellent artwork could and would be more sought after by collectors.
Okay, so let me hear this again. So it is artistic, ones that are artistic in their own right versus a cinematic.
Yeah, because in the time that my wife and I have been playing, which is a pretty long time now, I think you kind of saw the AD change from like kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you can just like go to a museum and be like, oh, that's a dual land. Cool. To where I think what she called very story beat driven renderers of scenes, which maybe peaked around the BFZ era, for example. And then back towards more freeform and expressive pieces, especially fueled by Secret Lair, perchance, and similar. TLDR, does this change the art market? More of a change towards high A art.
Yes, clearly.
Yeah.
But I think it's the overall change is not a top line decision. There isn't a art director in charge, capital AD person.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
It's like very.
So when did you start, Cal?
I started in RTR.
Okay, you started in RTR. Okay.
Yeah, longer ago than that, maybe actually, but
okay, so
around RTR block. Yeah.
Okay, so since RTR, there's been more art directors. So when I got back in, it was 2007, and Future Sight, they had effectively 1.5, basically one art director. So you had someone that was able to give a very unified vision, clear vision. I want this. I want it to look like this, smell like this, feel like this. That's why Lorwyn is just, it's tight. It's tight, top to bottom. It's tight. It feels the same. It's other than like Heartmender by Rebecca Gay, which makes no sense, but that's fine. Why did she paint that? Unusual. Now you have in every set, not just different art directors each time. There's now at least 2 art directors in every set because of Booster Fun. So naturally...
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
You don't have one person that chooses the vision anymore. You always have 2, and often 3 or 4. Because then there's a Secret Lair person, Jacob, that helps out there and it integrates in the set. So you have multiple people trying to execute on the vision. And it is really hard.
Yep.
And luckily, most of the Booster Fun, the Wild Styles, most of those are digital. Almost overwhelmingly are digital. In main expansion sets, I found that the art has gotten quieter as a more still scene, and a lot of the spells, storyline, significant moments are cinematics. And the art descriptions read as cinematics. I need you to do this, and artists are like,
we need this person doing this action on this thing.
Spells can be one of 3 things: before, during, or after. And here's the spell, full cinematic. Which one do you choose? Before, during, or after? How? And that is where the sketch stage comes in. And what's happening is there's more cinematics than there's ever been. So you have this like dichotomy of artists that get, a planeswalker or a legendary creature, which is very still, clear. You get to dig in details. And then other people getting like a life gain common instant spell, whatever.
It's someone
it's
drinking something.
And you have to figure those things out. And you now have to do a couple more thumbnails and little things to figure out a composition that makes sense to what they want you to do. And then you choose one, and then you need to get the thing done in the time frame. And the time frame is even shorter than it used to be. To make an art, it's just shorter.
Classic. Yeah.
So we're finding it at the both ends of a marquee set, expansion set. There tends to be a little more time to work on it. And some of the other things are quicker. They just need to get them done fast. Like alchemy, you got to get done fast. So it's digital, which is fine. But the quality isn't there because you don't have your best artists on it. You don't have the best people working to make a really phenomenal piece because it's only going to be digital only. Well, not largely digital only these days, for cripe's sake. So I think the pendulum swing isn't so much a swing. It's they're focusing on, we only have so many people that can paint oils, and oils take time. So now we need to deploy Ryan Pankos, we need you here, 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 and here.
You're going to be doing these things.
You can't paint any faster than this. Yep. So we need you to be here, 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 here. Can you do 1 extra here? Can you do 5 here? We need you because we need that variety of style to be part of it. We have a legendary, and we trust that you're not going to go something weird. You do quality. And now those people are now stabilized, Victor Adame, Chris Ron, that are just in that all the time. And then people that can do the wild styles, that sometimes hits home runs. And sometimes it's kind of weird. You saw it with Siddharth recently with the dinosaurs, which is like, those are weird. Yep. They're really weird. And then you see them in person, you're like, oh, they're really cool.
Yes.
But on digital, they look
a little strange. Yeah.
They look bad. They look bad digitally. But when you see them in person, you're like, okay, these are very cool. I understand the concept. So you didn't have that ability to deviate in the past. And every year you now haven't deviating more, where Secret Lair is in the main set, in the booster fun, which I think makes Secret Lair less fun.
Yeah, I would agree.
Unfortunately,
we have a lot of stuff now that you can just open in your play boosters or collector boosters that before 18 months ago you would have had to go to Secret Lair for that.
Yeah, I can get Rocky Road in my main set.
Yep.
What? I got Rocky Road at home. Why do I not get it right now? And you can see with Secret Lairs now that's like, okay, we're gonna have scarcity, so the values holds. So we sell out, it becomes scarce. Like there's ramifications, all that from just the art aspect of it. But I think the quality is also really going up. It's the highest it's ever been. There's more art awards than ever before. Period. More art awards than ever before because quality is higher than ever before. We may like art from 1994, but on a technical standpoint, most college students can paint that. Compared to now, phenomenal usage of light, sunsets. They're just like, I can't do that.
It's kind of crazy looking how far Magic the Gathering art has come. Any Celestial Prism enjoyers in chat? That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, it is a rhetorical question. That's it. It's a goodie.
I did collect Celestial Prisms for a while. I had like 40 of them.
Really?
And I said, what am I doing here?
What are we doing?
I got rid of them.
What are we doing? I collected Power Sinks for a while, and once I got a long box, I'm like, what am I doing?
That's how I feel about like any one card collection. For me, I know it's really for some people. It's just not for me anymore.
You've heard about the Stone Rain guy, right?
Oh yeah.
He finally had a friend help him out and got him a Stone Rain original sketch. He never had an art of Stone Rain, and now he has one. And it's like,
that's very fun.
That feels so right. In Wisconsin, of all places.
Yeah, yes, I didn't know he's from Wisconsin.
I used to send him Stone Rains on the Magic Online Trader League back in the day. MOTL, the throwback. Before Twitter existed.
Oh, man. That's so awesome. Man,
good question from the crowd.
Thank you. Our audience of one participating. Let's see. I have another audience question for the very end whenever we're wrapping up.
Sure.
From a different audience member.
Sure. Well, you have my time. What would you want to know? What insider info would you want to know?
Actually, Mike, I did want to pick your brain about something. Concerning the latest set. You and I have talked a little bit back and forth about the latest set.
Sure.
I have talked extensively on the podcast, probably unbeknownst to you, that I do not love most anything about the aesthetics of
I listen to the podcast. I'm aware.
You listen to the podcast, Mike?
Of course.
Holy moly.
Of course.
I've made it now.
Start from the bottom.
So specifically where I get a bit caught up is number one, I wish they kind of had just picked a horror lane and gone with it. We've got the 80s, we've got the psychological, we've got the cheesy, we've got the really serious, it's kind of all over the place. But I think a lot of my sticking points, which it feels more and more of a silly sticking point, that the farther we go into our Secret Lair plus Universes Beyond Future, how much reality really belongs in our fantasy. A wonderful theme we've been forced to confront, specifically with this set. I was listening to the latest episode of Limited Resources, one of the few Magic podcasts that I do consistently listen to, and it was just
is that the Watch Guy? The Watch Guy does that, right?
Yeah, it's Marshall and LSV. Yeah, the Watch Guy. And the entire episode was very much like Marshall, who had not really seen many of the cards before, just be like, oh my god, that's a cassette player. Okay, what's the card do? Oh, is that a flashlight? And I think that kind of sums up a lot of how I feel about the set. It's a lot. It feels a little plasticky to me, and it's not just all the plastic present in the cassette players.
It's part of it. You don't care for pastiche?
No, I guess not.
As we're talking art terms, right?
Yes. Can you define pastiche for all the people listening, not named me, because I totally know what it means?
Okay, so a pastiche is it's a type of art, and it imitates, but pays homage to it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make fun of a thing.
Yes.
That's not...
It's like a serious homage.
It's a serious homage.
Like related to, but the opposite of, I guess, perhaps parody.
It imitates.
Yeah, okay.
It's naturally in this showing love to from the past. It's not always lower quality, and people assume it is, and that's not true. Mm-hmm. So you'd have these things, and it's a referential thing, and Magic loves this. They love self-referencing things. Mm-hmm. Some of that is pastiche, especially if you do like a watercolor and it's Lorwyn. Oh, you're doing a pastiche of the thing. Okay,
yes.
I can see what you're doing there.
Yes. We realized that this is Lorwyn because it's a watercolor of, yeah.
Oh, it's a watercolor and they have the hoof feet. Oh, weird.
Lorwyn, yeah.
No. Yep. Bugs with weird feet. Okay. Or the very weird feet. So... Yeah, the piece of it is it is pastiche in that to the 80s, and now we are now far enough away from them that it's cool again, right? It's that 70s show was made in the 90s. The Wonder Years, you can see the difference in time that, we reference back. And now in 2024, 30 years ago, you were still in the 90s. That's 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. So for us that remember it, we basically remember the late end of the 80s. Like, nobody remembers the first part when they had disco, and there was like disco and hip hop. It's very weird. Mm-hmm. Like tight pants and then combo. Like hip hop.
Yep. Just a very fast transition.
Yeah, we remember 1992. Turquoise, fanny packs, Zubas. Like, that's also 80s. I mean, if you're in a rural area, like the 80s like lasted until like 1994.
Lasted a while, yeah.
Well, lasted a bit later. But you do wonder if this is a marketing decision.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I would assume so. It's just like very much a little bit of everything for everyone.
Maybe. Eat chocolate every day. But I look to people like Ovidio and Roy they're trying really hard. They really are. They work very hard at their jobs and they take it super seriously.
Definitely.
Hearing from our board Magic Man Sam talking to Ovidio about the moths. Yes. It's cool. It's neat. Those can stand on their own. You're like, okay, that's 1980s. Photo. I see you with double exposure. I see what you're doing, which references horror. I like that. That's well done.
There's a lot going on that is very well done.
And then there's pieces that are cinematics. And I think the piece of cinematics makes for weaker art. Choose. Mm-hmm. Make a decision. Don't give me 3 options. What do you want me to do? And don't tell me exactly what arm placement. Give me the problem. And there's a couple artists that talk about this a lot, that they like solving them. Steve Belladin is one that's known for this. Mm-hmm. He likes solving problems. Yep. Don't give me, I need this, and this is in this hand, and this is in this hand, and it needs to be in the air. It's like, don't do that.
Just tell me the vibe, and I'll figure it out.
I want to make a floating, skeleton that's praying, clear it out. It's going to evoke sci-fi.
Whatever is here, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to do it. And I think the piece of having... art directors that come from places where they had to direct more, right? If you're in Magic, I mean, you don't really need to tell Chris Ron much.
Yeah.
Homie, we need this and this. And he's like, I got you.
Yep.
For someone that's brand new to Magic, they really need to be like, okay, you can't do this. Don't make it too easy.
Yeah, I'm sure that's like definitely a very intriguing mix because you have every single set, you have new to Magic artists. Both working on, you have new to Magic artists, either quite literally new to Magic in that they just happen to be good at fantasy art and this is a good gig, or they're familiar with Magic but they haven't done art for it before, all the way up to, there are people who have been making art for Magic the entire damn time.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different.
There's people like Jesper Eising that plays actively,
exactly.
And he knows references really well because of it. So, with the rapid release of sets, more art that's ever made than ever before. Like, people realize that this rivals the Vatican at its height.
Which is kind of crazy.
Well, think about it. What else commissions this many unique arts calendars? You only have 12 things, 12 images.
Yep.
Page a day calendars, most of that art is reused.
Yep.
Brand new, commissioned art from a living artist.
Nothing.
Vatican.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the Vatican. It's the closest comparable, and it's just mind-blowing to be like, huh?
Does that make Mark Rosewater the Pope?
Could be. We should put it... If he wears a Pope hat to the unknown event, I'm going to be like, Cal, you made it. You made it. Rosewater and Pope hat. Just Gavin making the card right now, and it's going to be printed at there. It'll be like, what is this referencing? Like, dude, that's Cal's card. How do you know? It's like, oh, this is episode. All your sickos would come in and explain it.
That'd be deeply silly.
The cinematic is a problem. It's an ongoing problem of you're asking for too much in art descriptions. They're too long. They're too complicated. And you need to let go of the steering wheel a little more to make looser art that isn't so stiff. If you need to do a thing, it's stiff. And all of a sudden it feels tight and stiff. And you don't get the high art looseness and the trust in the artist to do the things because they feel like, oh, I'm just going to get edited anyway. Yeah, I'm going to do close enough here. You have to just let them go and have the piece. And we're seeing it ever more. It's going upward. I think there was a pretty marked change after Cynthia Shepherd left. She used to do these art description writing workshops. So she'd work with the team and explain these things to people because, she did. There's pictures of this. You can look it up. To really explain to people, like, this is too long. This is hard to describe. This is too precise. This is only going to give you one image. And I understand you want this one image, but you're now forcing that a better thing you didn't think of that they came up with will never exist. And that's a huge structural thing of the industry. And Magic has crept too far into that because now you have, special cowboy hat world. Okay, well, you need to have this and this. There are some reasons for that like touch on indigenous culture that you do need to be hyper specific on and precise on. But if you're in Ravnica, it's Ravnica. You do a live. Here's the Ravnica style guidebook. Looks like this. Here's for all the sets we've done on it. You can do it. And those sort of pieces I look for because you can start to notice when people have art descriptions and they're using the same words. Sometimes they post them and you can see, okay, you're using this thing again. I've seen this thing before. I've seen this thing before. It's the knowledge behind the card. So you can look at art and then guess, oh, this has first strike. This has double strike. I can see it. I can see exactly how you did it with the work. Yeah. This has
flying is the easy one. Ignore me. Yeah.
It's got whirl. Doesn't have flying. Those sort of things. Those are the art description tells. That's why when I was on an NDA, I had to be really careful because you can tell people what the things are, and then you get yelled at from wizards. Like, how'd you know? And you're like, well, because it looks
you just look at it.
It's the art rule.
Oh yeah, this guy has double. The guy has double strike.
This is reach. This is reach. I know this is reach. So those are the things that you got to make those less obvious, and you just open it up for artists to interpret, and then that creates better art because they come up with clever solutions that our brains don't think of because they're artists.
Are you a bit of an artist, Mike?
Not anymore. I used to do a lot of photography, and then I did ink stuff back in the day. But it's time. It's just the sheer time of it. Most of my art stuff's in the evening.
Yep. A little too busy now.
A little bit.
That makes sense. Do you think they leaned into tropes too much in Dustmourn? We're talking about art tropes right now that are easily definable within the Magic the Gathering sphere.
I don't think they've
leaned into tropes too much.
I don't think they leaned into tropes too much. I think they leaned into cliches too much.
Okay. What would you find as the difference there?
A trope is a recognizable thing. A cliche is an overused thing.
Okay. So one thing could be both at the same time.
It could be. But usually when people are talking about, they mean cliches. It's too much. I think that some hands were forced. You need to have this. You need to have this many things.
Yeah.
Which is, who do you blame? Who's to blame there?
Yep.
Tough to say.
That's always the wild thing about discussing Magic the Gathering is it's very easy to say oh, WotC doing this, and it's easy to make the inference that like, actually, when I'm like talking about the things that I wish were different about Magic the Gathering creative or art direction or whatever, I think a lot of people automatically assume that I'm like talking about like, oh, dang, I wish these specific ADs did some very specific things differently, which, yeah, sometimes, but a lot of times it's a lot more of just like, I know Wizards of the Coast, the company, which is a collection of people with mostly good intentions, has a lot of influence inside of it that does not align exactly with my interests. And that has created this outcome that I do not prefer, including an over-reliance upon cliche, perhaps.
I mean, if you want to be a reply guy or YouTuber, you can, right? The lane is open. We've been seeing it at CDH a lot in the last few days. It's open.
It's not my scene as much.
Not a huge fan of it. It's fine. It's not archival. Is my biggest thing. Like, no one comes back to it 5 years from now. No one cares.
Yep.
Because there's nothing that much that is unique about it.
Yep.
This is hard, Cal.
Yeah.
I wrote articles for a while, and I used to do art reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And by nature, if you can't critique a work, it is not strong enough to be critiqued.
Yes.
Full stop. Yep. It's talking about Hamilton.
It's like anything like worth looking at and thinking about is like worth critiquing.
If you can't critique it, it's not strong.
Yes.
And you're going to have some good and bad. Just by nature, a lot of hands in a set, a lot of hands going on. It's just normal. When I wrote art reviews, whenever I would have something that was critical, point out a flaw, point out a rush decision, point out something that probably shouldn't have gotten by, it was damaging. People would remind me years later, hey, remember that time you did that thing? And it's like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, I was just being marginally critical.
Yeah, like I was being nice.
Yes.
Like could have been way worse.
Like, I was pulling my punches because I know you, the person, are great at your job, and I'm sure there were other factors that caused this to happen.
Totally.
But it's like worth critiquing.
Love your thing on it. Like, here's why.
Yeah.
And I think it dumbs things down. Of everything is good. Let's find the great, and that's what we had to move to.
Yep.
And you can see it in our art market, great things sell for more. They just do. Quality seeks itself out. People know. Yep. Names get synonymous with quality. And Chris Ron and Ryan Pankos talk about this a lot with each other. What is your average quality? And how do you raise the average each year? Mm-hmm. Not, I get a Planeswalker, I get a common. No, it's like, what is your average?
Yeah, it doesn't matter like what you're working on, as long as you're doing great and continually doing better.
Correct. How are you solving problems you couldn't in the past?
Yep.
So finding those things of like, you got to point out some of those that are like, that one should have been cut.
Yeah.
But why did that get through? Mm-hmm. Those are the questions I can talk to folks internally about and say, what was going on here? How it's like, and sometimes like I give a person a chance. I gave a landscape person a robot and wanted to see if they could do it. And they assured me they could. And they did okay.
And they did not.
They did okay. But we didn't have enough artists because, your boy Ryan Pankos is already assigned for the year. He couldn't do an extra one.
Couldn't, yeah.
The highly reliable people that we know, years of experience, blah, 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 they're locked in.
Yeah, so you give someone else a shot, and sometimes it really works out, and you find out you have a new reliable person. And sometimes it does not.
You get a Dominic Mayer, and you're like, this is something special.
Holy moly.
And now it's your boy.
Yep.
Z Germans. But starting out, it's like, this is flat color. This is weird.
Yep.
And now you're like, yeah, I want to look for my boy.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah. Is the Ryan Pankos Ugin the Spirit Dragon still the like highest priced new art? I know it was for a while.
No, the highest priced new art was Tritz at over 150,000.
Oh yeah, okay, those D&D freaks, I tell you.
Well, there's like one person.
I see.
There's one person that owns 90% of all D&D art. One person.
There's
insane. One person.
That's so crazy.
And then every now and then, when there's a big public auction, someone might go up against that person.
And then,
but it's uncommon.
They lose.
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Okay. But usually they lose. Yes. Other than that, there's been some private sales that have been quite high.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So there's been some private sales in the 30s and 40s. Yep. common.
It's like Ugin was like 21 or something like that. I don't remember.
I think Ugin was over 30.
Okay, shows what I know. I'm an old man now.
Yeah,
I don't remember any.
Totally fine. But yeah, that's we've hit post-pandemic.
Okay,
people don't have extra money, so they've got Biden bucks aren't laying around.
Yep, it's gone down a little bit. Yeah. So Tyler Jacobson got the payday, huh?
Yeah, he got paid. He made that money.
Yeah. Congrats, you randomly get to draw Dritz. Okay, sure. I'm gonna draw this guy with
Seems okay.
Good news. Good news.
Everybody thought that was gonna be a one and done. Nobody thought that. Oh, there's gonna be more D&D sets. Everyone's like, oh, that's gonna be one and done. No way. And I feel so bad that Baldur's Gate didn't come out when that set came out.
Dude, man.
Can you imagine?
That set has aged so well.
It really has.
It has aged so well.
It really, really, really has. It's fun to play too. Yeah. Yeah, but that 150K thus far for a new one. That could change.
Interesting.
It could.
Fair enough.
Possible.
I was about to say, you know a lot better about the future of Magic Art than I
do. I do. Yeah. A lot of the stuff is just going to be private. Like, it's just, when it's so high, you don't auction for something.
People just you give someone the chance to give you a ton of money and they say, okay.
Yeah.
Move on.
There's levels to this. I mean, it's like when people keep yelling Post Malone and it's like, there's people more wealthy than Post Malone.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Definitely. He's got a lot of cash, but there's a lot of people out there with dumb cash.
That own countries.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia owns
coming on in. You for me.
Dritz owns Dritz. We figured it out. We did it. We did it.
Once it come in for it. No, we're finding that there are people that are, athletes have come in.
Yeah.
There's been actual celebrities, and I'm like, I know who this person is.
Yep.
Sure. Or handlers for them. Like
yes. Yeah, it's just like it's not only Posty. There's a lot of other people who happen to enjoy these things. Posty is just way more.
Well, as we're
face up about it,
as we head into Final Fantasy, people know who Amano is.
Yep, I know. I'm fascinated to see the results of how the stuff like the Marvel stuff lands and the Final Fantasy stuff lands, and I'm okay with it. I love it. I love the versus systems back in the day, the weird stuff in there. Like, I'm sitting here like, why are we leaving stuff on the shelf right away, though? Mm-hmm. Like, I just want Dragon Orbs, Dragon Ball. You get 7 of them, and, they're mana rocks for 3. Mm-hmm. You get them, you get a wish. Just, can you give it to me? Yep. I'm here for the straw hat. I need a straw hat equipment. That's all I'm about.
It's gonna be tough when they have a separate game out.
Dude, I know it's not gonna happen. I would love for it to happen, but I know
it will one day. If that game fails, it'll come out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. And I mean,
or maybe there's just a collab that they do.
Personally, I'm not very confident in the long-term ability of Bandai Namco to run card games, from what I've seen. So
I think any card games that aren't Magic turns out real hard.
Yep, tough road. The 3 that have been around all came out around the same time. Interesting that.
Yeah. Rage and Vampire the Masquerade. They're going strong right now with Magic.
Vampire made it a pretty long time.
Yeah, they did all right. They did
all right for themselves.
Art was okay.
Art was okay indeed. Mike, I like to keep these interviews short. I gotta be real. I like to keep these chats short. I've got 2 more questions for you.
Shoot them, rapid fire. Let's keep short.
One is going to be in front of the Patreon wall, and one is going to be behind it. So
give me the spicier one.
I'm monetizing you. What?
Spicier one behind.
Spicier one behind? Oh, yeah. Neither of them are really spicy.
Okay, all right then.
Okay. Do you have a favorite name and or flavor text from the Magic set Dark Ascension?
Oh my god, this is like Carrie Thomas Barker busting my chops.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so. I like how I can call this out immediately. It's just awful. It's just awful. Okay, so for people that don't know, Carrie is the internet troll of internet trolls of Magic. Ran the Splinter Bin, got everybody to think there was fetch lands at every set with fake cards.
Mike, I gotta say this really quick. On this episode that this is going to be a part of, we talk about the ban list, and my immediate reaction when I saw a screenshot of it somewhere, because I didn't see it on Twitter first, I was like, holy shit, what is Carrie up to? I saw a screenshot of the ban announcement. I was like, what are they doing? Carrie,
just...
Sorry, you make...
Into shenanigans every time. Wow. So I worked on Dark Ascension, and I'm a bad flavor text writer. It goes too fast. It's too fast. There's too many words. So I was not very good at it. So Carrie loves needling me about this to make fun of me, because obviously Carrie has a lot of friends that do it all the time, and I was not great at it. So Carrie loves to just point that out all the time and just bust my chops. There is one in there. It's not one I wrote. My favorite is obviously Gather the Townsfolk. It's a fantastic name. It's concise, exactly what it means, exactly what you expect. Townsfolk, Innistrad, so perfect. Love that one specifically for that set. Carrie, it's good.
I really like Drug Skull Reaver.
Drug Skull. Supposed to be super good.
Drug Skull.
Okay. It was okay.
Drug Skull. It's just too expensive.
Yeah.
Racked and warped with anguish, it obsessively seeks out other souls to hoard within its eternal prison. It looks so scary.
Scary. I mean, it's like 1,000 mana back then.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah, it's legitimately 1,000. It's just a ton. Cripes, Carrie.
All right, Mike. I am going to ask you one more question, a little layered question, but you're going to answer it for the patrons after we wrap up here, and that is going to be, what is your favorite Magic the Gathering art? I already know the answer to that. And what is your least favorite piece of Magic the Gathering art, if you have one, and why? Mike, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Herald's Horn. It's been great to have you. Is there anything else you would like the audience to know before we go?
Get to a MagicCon. You're going to see an art show at one of them. Absolutely get to them whenever you can. We can't always announce early, but it is well worth your time, and it probably changes your perspective on art forever.
And of course, go to your local art museum and look for dual lands.
19th century, dude. 19th century lands. America.
Thanks for joining me, Mike.
Thanks, Cal. It was fun.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Herald's Horn. Herald's Horn is hosted, edited, and produced by me, Cal Jones. The co-hosts are Emma Partlow, Lexi, better known as Black Girl Mage, and Dan, better known as Moderately Anonymous MTG. All of our info lives in the podcast description. If you want to reach out to me, whether with feedback, you want to give me money, or you just want to send a letter to the editor, hit up editorial@heraldshorn.com. Thanks again for listening to the Herald's Horn. We are having so much fun creating it. See you in 2 weeks.